All right, Lovely Tang here, aka your mama on a mission. We're reading chapter 19, Rolodex of Wisdom. Rolodex Wisdom. Flipping on the television as he poured his morning coffee, Greg smiled at the forecast of another perfect weekend. Being a weather broadcaster in Southern California must be the easiest job in television. Another beautiful day in America's finest city, 73 degrees, no rain, no clouds, but it may get cool tonight, the anchor then joked. You may actually wear socks. Stepping out the door, Greg almost forgot his notepad and ran back in to retrieve it. It reminded him of the old American Express commercial, "Don't leave home without it." He wondered what David was doing on his gorgeous day that was. He now understood, a gift from God. If David was able to stay sober today and continue on the road to recovery after his devastating relapse, it would be a good day. Just as it would be good for Greg if he learned one new thing, made one step forward on his own journey of wisdom and to success. On the side of the airport, a ritual to which he was becoming well accustomed, Greg thumbed through the pages of the notebook as he had done many times before. This time, however, he saw something from a completely different angle. As he read through the nuggets of inspiration, he noticed a trend. Every person he had met shared a common foundation. No matter where they connected, who they were, or what they did, the quality of the wisdom was the same. Excited about the discovery, he could hardly wait to tell Sharon when he arrived in Virginia. The two of them had been invited to the Napoleon Hill headquarters by Don Green to check on the book's progress, and although it was a pleasure to meet in person, Greg also had a feeling of being called into the principal's office. Only this time he was far from in trouble. In fact, this time he had a great news to share. "Hi guys," he said as he entered the room for a brainstorming meeting. "I have to show you something." Sharon had already arrived and was reviewing some of Napoleon Hill's articles when Greg walked in. She looked up with a smile as he took a seat. He slid the pad across the table to show his new discovery. "What do you have here?" Don Green asked. "Check this out. Today I noticed a trend that all these great American success stories had in common." "I bet you know what that is," Green said. It's what inspires you and what pushes all these people to great heights. It's exactly what Hill used to say. They found their major, definite purpose. "That's it," Sharon chimed, stabbing her pen in the air. "Every person we have spoken to and written about had that burning desire to not quit because they were on a mission that was far bigger than themselves. It was never about them. It was about their why." "Their why?" Green asked. Sharon continued. "Yes, we've heard it 1,000 times. It's not about the how. It's all about the why. If you have a big enough reason to do something, the how will simply show itself." Green smiled at the revelation and sat back into his chair. Greg said, "That's exactly what I've found looking through the notes. All these stories had this message in common. It goes far deeper than just what you mentioned before. Deeper than just America," Green added. "Fact is, that's a similar finding worldwide." Noticing the look on Greg's face, he said, "You don't believe me, do you?" "Well," Greg sputtered. For a moment, Sharon enjoyed seeing how Greg handled himself in a slippery situation. Then she said, "We do need global economy in this turmoil. We do need to add the international perspective to the book as well. The global economy is in turmoil. and people all over the world want to learn how to become successful in this tough environment. We need to be able to speak to everyone striving for success. As if he had planned it, Don Green reached into his desk and pulled out an old-fashioned Rolodex, the big round kind, to which one added cards with people's names and phone numbers, then rolled it like a wheel to locate the contact's information. Go ahead, he offered. I'll spin this, and I want you each to pull out 2 cards. As Green spun the device, Greg and Sharon took turns pulling out cards and laying them on the desk. On this wheel, I keep my international connections. I'm not much of a gambler, yet I would bet that if we called each one of these random people that you pulled out, we would see the same trend, that they were on a mission bigger than themselves, no matter where they were from. Amused and intrigued, the 2 guests had to admire their host's confidence. Their host's confidence. Greg said, but those leads must be outdated by now, since they're still on a Rolodex, for gosh sakes. I haven't seen one of those in years. Don't you have any more current ones stored in your computer? Maybe we need more up-to-date success principles. Greg looked his California visitor in the eyes and said, Green looked his California visitor in the eyes and said, Greg, as you can imagine, the Napoleon Hill Foundation gets queries from all over the world with more than 200,000 hits per day on our website. So yes, I do use a computer. I just happen to like my 3x5 cards and Rolodex. Greg sat quietly as the mentor made his point. We get requests from people wanting an autographed picture of Napoleon Hill. And we get letters and addresses to him personally, even though he died at age 87 in 1970. One day I received a call from a man who had said he had started reading Think and Grow Rich, but after discovering when the book was written, he wondered whether he might be wasting his time on outdated material. I asked the caller, do you understand the law of gravity? He replied, what do you mean? I told him that if a man stepped off a ledge of a tall building, he would hit the ground and be killed or seriously injured. It did not matter whether the event happened 100 years ago or today. Some things don't change, and the principles of success have not changed. Time is irrelevant when discussing the secrets of success, which, by the way, are not secret at all. The popular book, The Secret, is a contemporary book about the law of attraction, which Napoleon Hill originally wrote about in 1919. The success principles do not change, but they are often written in a different format to attract new readers. Okay, I'll bite, Sharon offered. Dinner is on me if we get the same why response. Deal, Green said with confidence, as if he already knew the outcome. She picked up the card closest to her and read the name, Taddy. Who's this? Taddy Bletcher. He's a gem, Don Green replied. A man who must be the first person in history to have founded the university from a fax machine. Greg and Sharon looked at each other, baffled. Green continued, a few years ago, from his office in Johannesburg, South Africa, without any structure, course, or staff, he began posting notices and faxing out letters of invitation to people who had the desire to better themselves. He wanted to offer these young people in his country the opportunity to become more than the outcasts of society had labeled them as. The only problem was there was no college for them to attend. With over 3,500 applications to a school that did not exist, Dr. Bletcher and a handful of colleagues were able to borrow a building to house the university. From there, magic happened, and the idea exploded into what has become the premier college in South Africa for underprivileged students. The authors smiled at each other, knowing that Teddy would have a great story to share if they could get him on the line. Green called Fletcher's number, and a cheerful voice answered, "Teddy here." How we doing?" the caller asked in his southern drawl. "Why, Mr. Green, hello. How may I serve you?" "I have a couple of friends here with me who would like to ask you something." "Go ahead," Fletcher replied. Sharon leaned toward the speaker phone and said, "Hello, Mr. Fletcher. I'm Sharon Letcher." That's their real names, according to the book. "And with me is Greg Reed. We understand that you started a university to help those who could not normally afford to attend. What inspired you to do this? And more importantly, what were your challenges in doing so?" After a momentary pause, Fletcher said, "Oh, we had a huge challenge. I suppose all big dreamers begin with the idea long before they get others to believe in it as well. We had absolutely nothing to start with, but we wanted to prove what we were determined to prove was that these kids who had been thrown away by society were just as creative as anybody else." The South African educator went on. "At the time, most everyone suggested that these children were capable of becoming only minimal workers, such as farmers or hand workers. And we said no. We were going to prove that these kids who come from mud shacks and from off the streets could become chancellors, accountants, stockbrokers, or whatever else they chose." Intrigued by the message, Greg asked, "Teddy, what kept you going even when everyone said you were crazy?" Teddy gave a light chuckle and a straightforward response. "By maintaining the mindset that you never think about where you are today. You think only about where you know you are." Let me see. Let's start again. "By maintaining the mindset that you never think about where you are today. You think only about where you're going. You have to passionately, completely, and utterly know what your end goal looks like. Even if it's just feeling with every cell in your body, you just know that this thing is real. And more importantly, it's larger than just yourself. You are doing something that will help others for generations to follow. Once you accept this fact, the setbacks and challenges will not matter as much." "So it sounds like you had a big enough why," offered Greg. "Yes, you could say that for sure," replied the voice from abroad. "The world would be a much greater place if more people redirected their attention from me to we. Don't you think?" "Agreed," Greg said. "We truly appreciate you taking the time to speak with us, as well as the great work you are doing. You have given me, Sharon and me, a lot to think about. Thank you." As they signed off, Don and Sharon also thanked the man. Sharon looked at Green and said, duly impressed, "That's one heck of a Rolodex file you have there." Don laughed as he said, "You better believe it. Napoleon Hill's teachings have had a huge impact on people all over the world. In fact, I just spoke this morning with Tanaka Takaaki, founder of SSI Corporation and our distribution partner in Japan. And he says success depends on 3 C's: congruency, Be authentic in your word and actions. In other words, do as you say and say as you do. Others are watching, and even more importantly, this is what makes up your character. C for clarity. Have a crystal clear vision of what you desire. C for certainty. Know within your heart and soul that you are doing a know within your heart and soul that what you are doing has purpose. All right, let me see how much further, because I'm getting sleepy. Yeah, there's a lot more pages to go. So I'm going to end here, and we'll pick it up tomorrow. I should be back on track tomorrow with reading of chapter 19. All right, take care. Bye-bye.